Hello and welcome to lesson 2.5 on major purchases for COM class. So, a couple of things here. First of all, big question is, how do we save money for major purchases? Now, these are big things. These are not things like going to the grocery store and buying an extra thing of toilet paper or something like that. This is big purchases. This is houses. This is cars, etc. One of the key things, easiest ways to do it psychologically that winds up really helping a lot of people is, first of all, having a separate spot for that, the savings account. Money goes in, money comes out of your regular account, and we have a habit as people of just spending everything that's in here. It's psychologically, it's just what we do. If we've got stuff in here, we tend to spend it. However, if you siphon a little bit off to a savings account and do it at the beginning of the pay period, you're not going to notice it, especially if you do it automatically. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow for things to grow, and eventually you forget you're putting the money aside. It's called the pay yourself first. So we want to pay ourselves first, and if we do this with a beginning of the pay period, automatically, you're not going to notice it going, and that is going to grow, and you're going to save a whole lot of money that way. Now, a lot of times people, though, don't save, and there is a big cost to payments. There's a cumulative effect of all those small little payments. And really, it's more of an advertising scheme than it's anything else, because it seems like things cost less. If I'm buying something for $10,000, right, I might say, well, you can have it for only $33 a week. Or maybe they'll say something like $131 per month. Now, $33 per week or $131 a month does not sound a lot, especially if you're talking about something for, let's say, a $10,000 vehicle. But this is including the interest. 10-year loan, $10,000, 10% interest is going to cost you an additional $5,858.15. And that is what, $33 a week times 52 weeks times 10 years will work out to approximately about $33 a week. So that means you're paying almost 60% more for the item. And by the time it's done, usually you're just ready to buy another new item, and you go back into this payment. And so people are selling you $10,000 items over and over and over again, and you constantly give them more than what you need to. There's always an opportunity cost when you buy something, which basically is, if you spend money on X, you can spend it towards Y. But people want things now, right? So if you've got money, if you got X number of dollars, you've got a choice. You can do Y, or you can do option Z. Problem is that most of us want to do both Y and Z, and we want to do it now. Well, that means later we're making X number of dollars, but we can choose neither Y nor Z because we've constantly put this thing into debt, right? Because we're still paying the interest because we chose to do both Y and Z earlier. So, a couple of things. We want to try to get things at a good price. When you're making a major purchase, you want to take time to go through things. And first of all, there is negotiation. Negotiate things. Taking a 30-second pause. If you don't talk for 30 seconds, people get really weirded out. A 30-second pause in silence is just begging for somebody to fill the void. Psychologically, most people can't handle it, and that's increasing. My wife and I, we were bartering, we were talking, trying to buy a vehicle, and within 30 seconds, the price had gone down 3 times before we could even get a word in, because the sales guy just kept lowering and lowering and lowering the price. And so I think the price went down about $3,000 in 30 seconds just by not saying anything. Comparing prices, being informed about the product to avoid upselling. Same vehicle. After we negotiated down the $3,000, we actually started looking. We said, okay, thank you for the time, and we walked out. We waited. We came back and said, well, there's this other vehicle that's looks pretty comparable, and it costs less. Guess what? They said, well, we'll drop our price again. Sometimes it helps to build up to the product you really want. Let's say like you're buying a couch, right? We want the couch, right? Furnishing a room, buying something off Kijiji instead of going straight for the new thing. And then once you've saved up for it, new. Now, if you had bought the couch new and you were willing to pay, let's say, $100 a month for that couch for the next 2 years, well, if you buy it used, you then have $100 a month that you can be saving for the new couch if you were willing to do that. And sometimes passing on the latest and greatest, opting for last year's model, the display model, a scratch and dent bargain. After a hailstorm is usually a good time to buy cars because a lot of the cars now have dents in them and they can't sell them at nearly the same prices. A few other things. Sometimes it just helps to ask for a better deal. Just even the process of asking can get you a better deal. Now, it is important to be honest as you're going through. My wife and I, one time we were buying trampoline, and the trampoline was selling for $500. Now, myself, I said, was it on sale recently? We're at Canadian Tire. Was it on sale recently, or is it going on sale soon? Well, it turns out last week it was on sale for $375. I said, can I have it for that price? They said, yes, you can. That's $120 savings simply by asking whether something could be at a better price. Now, you have to be honest, right? If I went through that process and then they said $375 and we decided not to buy it, you're probably being a little bit of a jerk. But the be willing to walk away is another big and powerful one. Another time, my wife and I were looking at buying this painting in Guatemala. It's a beautiful painting. Now, started off as 1,000 consol, but special price for us, 700 consol. Well, I said, oh, what about 350 consol? Well, we negotiated for a while. They went down to about 425 consol. They actually went down from 700 to close to 425 quite quickly. We went up to 400 consol, and I said, okay, no, won't do it, and we started to walk away. Now, my wife wanted the painting, and I have to admit, it's a nice painting. It still hangs in our living room. And so my wife whispered to me, well, 25 consol, that works out to like $5 Canadian. $5 Canadian. You're going to let the painting walk away for $5 Canadian? And before I could even talk to my wife about it, I heard, Okay, for you 400. We went back and we bought the painting, but we were willing to walk away. That's another negotiation tech. If you're willing to walk away after negotiating some and they know you have the cash for it, you will find out pretty quick if they can go a little bit lower. North America, by the way, is probably one of the only places where people don't expect bargaining. So you're probably not going to be rude if you start asking for it. Now, it's always be polite as you're doing it. I don't know how to spell polite. Always be polite and kind as you're doing it. It's not a rude thing, but you can get things at a much better price. Sometimes people ask about what's the difference between leasing and renting. Well, in leasing a product, you're making monthly payments with an option to buy. So let's say we've got this car, okay, and it's selling for $5,000. $5,000. Okay, this $5,000 vehicle will have a lease of $100 for $300 per month for 3 years, with a $2,000 option to buy at the end. So after 3 years, you've paid $3,600 plus another $2,000. They've essentially sold you that vehicle for $5,600. So they managed to upsell you on the lease, but it's only $100 a month, as opposed to more if we were buying it outright all up front. So the monthly payment is less. Renting would just say, okay, you can have it for $100 a month, and at the end, there's no option to buy. Okay? And that's the difference between buying and leasing. Or buying and renting. Sorry, leasing and renting. Why do car companies lease cars? Because it's actually the most expensive way to operate a vehicle. Now, it does have lower monthly payments. But you never own the vehicle. Right? In that previous scenario, that $5,000 vehicle, which is cheaper, $5,600 or $5,000? Well, obviously, buying it outright, $5,600 is the cheaper option. Well, what happens if you could get that for, let's say, $4,700? Right? Dealerships want to lease, first of all, because it makes them more money. And even if it didn't, it provides a steady flow of income. Right? You're stuck buying it, but there is an amount of risk that comes with it as opposed to just having the vehicle. So I do recommend that for most major purchases, if you can't get what you want right away and you need the item, is to work your way up. This works great with things like furniture and cars. Houses are a little bit different. I would probably not recommend doing this so much with houses. At least maybe do it in like a one step up process as opposed to multiple steps, because moving is horrible. You can't necessarily guarantee what's happening with housing prices. My wife and I, we were trying to downsize once, and we had our house on the market for literally, I think it was about 18 months it took for us to sell the house. And there's closing costs and everything else and legal fees. But with things like furniture and cars and some of those other things, we buy the lesser product and then we save the money that we would use as payments. It avoids the commitment of payments and the commitment of debt. Right? If that couch example that we had, where if we had $100 a month If we're just saving that $100 a month and something happens, we're not committed to actually doing that $100 a month. We don't need to buy the new couch now if an emergency happens and stuck with that $100 a month payment. And one of the advantages of doing that is when you buy and sell used items, there's less depreciation than buying new items. New items, usually as soon as you take them, they're now used. They're worth less. That $5,000 car, as soon as you drive it off the lot, is now only worth $4,000. If you were trying to turn around and sell it, you'd probably only be able to sell it for $4,000, not $5,000. That's depreciation. The used item depreciates less than the new. Okay, so instead of leasing a car at $400 a month for 5 years, save for 2 months and you buy an $800 car. 2 months later, you've got an additional $800. You sell that $800 car for $500, and you buy a $1,300 car. 2 months later, you sell that for, let's say, $900, and you buy a $1,700 car. And you just repeat the cycle as many times as you like. Now, by the time you get to like a $1,700 car or whatnot, all of a sudden, you can maybe wait an extra few months or maybe even a year. There's lots of possibilities. Layaway is another way that you can do things. Some companies will layaway plans. You may still hold an item for a day or two, especially things like new homes. You can ponder something without making the commitment. You need to watch out for fees or interest if you're doing this. Some things people say we'll do it on a layaway, but they're going to charge you a little bit of extra money. Not a lot, but sometimes. You just want to watch out for that. Really, it's just putting an item on hold. Buying a vehicle, if you're not sure about the vehicle and you want to do more research, say, will you be willing to hold this for a day? It's a great way in order to make sure that you're making a rational decision. Down payments. Down payments are just money that you put towards an expensive item before you start making payments. Most of the time, people won't let you just drive away with a $5,000 vehicle on the promise that you'll pay them so much per month. Let's say $100 per month. A lot of times they'll take a down payment. They'll say, okay, give us $200 now, and then we start the $100 a month payments, as an example. And this becomes what we call the down payment. The bigger the down payment, the less of a loan is required. Okay. Now it's usually given a time at finalizing the transaction saying, yes, we're making it. We're actually making this purchase. Right? It's basically so the lending institution means that you actually have cash to actually make it. And it's pretty much a given whenever you're buying a home. Buying a house, you're going to need a down payment. Usually at least 5%. But usually people recommend at least 10 to 30% or more. Now you may have heard of these do not pay events, right? Buy now, pay later. Furniture stores are notorious for this. You remember that couch? $100 a month. But you know what? You don't need to pay for a year. $100 a month, but you don't need to pay us for it. Well, let's say 3 months. 3 months. But what happens 3 months later? If you don't pay the thing off in full, they then say, okay, well, you didn't pay it off. So starting 3 months ago, what's the interest? That 0% looks remarkably like 22 at that point, and applies from the very first day we got the loan, not just at the end of that. Right? Emergencies happen, and all of a sudden you're saying, well, now I've got this new furniture, and I've got been laid off from my job or something, can't afford to pay. But you're committed now. you've got the furniture. Now, a couple of things I just want to remind you of. First of all, if you are married, major purchases should be done in consultation with the spouse. Again, minor purchases like, should I buy a pencil? You don't need to talk to your wife about that. Should I buy a car? Probably should talk to your wife about that. Now, depending on your financial situation, what constitutes a major purchase will be different. If you're, let's say, let's say you are like Warren Buffett, right? Or if you own a company like Jim Bezos, right? Buying a car might be considered a minor purchase if you got that much money, right? But for most average people, buying a car is a major purchase, and anything that's a major purchase should be done in consultation with the spouse. Okay, that is it. Thanks for watching. If you got any questions, let me know.